Okay. Thank you. So we were doing something on biomolecules yesterday. Okay. So now let us start with some understanding. So yesterday I was trying to talk to you about trichloroacetic acid. We were trying to talk about trichloroacetic acid. It is used as a solvent in tissue analysis. Okay. So it is used as a solvent in tissue analysis, something that you should know. So while you're doing a tissue analysis, you will be getting two different things. There are certain things which are insoluble in a solvent, which will be like part of the sediment. We call this as the sediment. So when you are like kind of like doing a sample analysis, you will get something called as a sediment. What does that sediment indicates? The sediment indicates that it is insoluble. Okay. Sorry, the spelling of what is acetic acid? Can someone tell me? What is the formula for acetic acid? So you have the CH3COOH. Okay. So instead of this hydrogen CH3, if it is all converted into Cl, then it becomes trichloro, monochloro, trichloro. And what acid is this? This part is contributing to acetic acid. So that is trichloroacetic acid. CCl3 COOH. That is acetic acid or trichloro. You can also call this as ethanoic acid. Okay, trichloroacetic acid or trichloroethanoic acid, both are same only. Acetic acid is a common name. Okay, ethanoic acid is the IUPAC name. So you have the insoluble fraction, which is the sediment, and you also have the soluble fraction. So the one which is there above will be called as the supernatant. The supernatant is the soluble fraction. Okay, so while you are seeing the supernatant is the soluble fraction, what you will understand is you will understand this will contain some substances which are soluble. So the soluble fraction usually it contains what we call it as the micromolecules. The hydrogen is replaced by chlorination. Okay, so you see here, so this will be containing something called as micromolecules. And this part, usually it contains something called as macromolecules. So now we have to study what is this micromolecules and macromolecules. Okay, so now let us try to see like what is this micromolecules and macromolecules. That is what we are going to see. What is micromolecules? So micromolecules is something which is having a lower molecular weight. Generally, trichloroacetic acid is taken. Okay, you can also use any other solvent also. Okay, it is by conventional techniques. This is there. I haven't like kind of started writing anything at all. Just wait for some time. And by the way, there is no word called as freezed. It's frozen. Just a second. Okay, so what are micromolecules? Micromolecules are something that have lower molecular weight. Okay, that ranges from 18 to 800 Daltons. Okay, so what is Daltons? Do you know? Do you guys know what is Daltons? We use the symbol Da. Have you heard of this unit called as AMU? Okay, this AMU is nothing but what is this man? AMU ketadillaya. So this atomic mass unit is nothing but Daltons. Okay, so this AMU and Daltons is the same thing. Okay, it is micromolecules are found in the acid soluble pool. AMU and Daltons is the same thing only. It is not like different. It has four kinds of the acid soluble fraction has four different kinds of molecules or compounds. It is proteins, nucleic acids, Wait a minute, wait a minute. Amino acids, sugars, nucleic acids, and ions. A protein will come in the insoluble fraction. Okay, so what is this thing? So this micromolecules are molecules which will have a lower molecular weight. They will have like low molecular weight, and the molecular weight will be there in the range of 18 to 800 daltons. In case if it is molecular weight is there falling into this category, we call them as micromolecules. Okay. Usually, what is the thing that you need to understand is micromolecules are molecules that join together to form macromolecules. Okay. Most often what happens is micromolecules are molecules which will join together to form macromolecules. Usually, where will you find this micromolecules? These micromolecules you will find it in the soluble part. And the macromolecules are complex. They cannot be dissolved easily in trichloroacetic acid. So we call them as the insoluble fraction. So they have a very bigger size. So they don't get solubilized very soon. So they will be like kind of like, what do you understand? Like they are not easily soluble. They'll not easily dissolve. But whereas the smaller components will be able to dissolve very easily. So they will be considered as a micromolecule. Okay. And then you have a different, what are the micromolecules that you know of? You have amino acids. When amino acids are there, what is the macromolecule of that particular thing? It will be called as protein. You have sugars. When sugars are there, they are joining together, you will get what we call it as carbohydrate. You also have what? You have nucleotides. When nucleotides are joined together, you will get what we call it as nucleic acids. Okay, you see here, okay, I have made a mistake here. So you should cut this thing off and then you write nucleotides. Okay, and then you have fatty acids, glycerol, and lipids will all come under this part. The molecular weight of these substances are low. But still we will classify them under macromolecules because they come under what? Insoluble part. So if I'm doing a tissue analysis, I will get two parts. One is called as soluble part and the other one is called as the insoluble part. Whenever I'm getting this soluble part, in soluble part, I will have like these three components along with ions and water. Okay. So these are the things which I will usually get in the soluble part. Whereas in case of macromolecules, I'll get something more. What are the things that I will get is I'll get proteins, carbohydrates, nucleic acids. What are these things? These are nothing but heavy substances which are made up of this particular micromolecules. Okay. And also along with the insoluble fraction, I will get lipids. Lipids will not have water, will not have a higher molecular weight. Lipid will be like kind of like lipid is kind of something which will have low molecular weight, but still, since it is coming inside this insoluble fraction, we generally classify lipids as what, macromolecule. Okay, if you see the thing, I mean, like if you see the molecular weight of these substances, the molecular weight of these substances will be like around 400 to 800 only. But still, like what we will try to do is like we will try to club them together under macromolecules because of only one point. What is that only one point? It is insoluble. Are we able to understand? Nucleosides are even smaller than this thing. Okay. So you write macromolecules. What are macromolecules? The molecules. Yeah, correct, Devanand. What you're saying is correct. The molecular weight ranges around 10,000 Daltons or above. Okay. The acid insoluble part contains proteins, nucleic acids, polysaccharides, lipids. Okay. If you're done, you let me know so that I can move to the next slide. I have to write some more. Usually, if you're seeing, you will see very smaller substances or very larger substances. There is usually in the tissue samples there are no intermediate substances. Okay, so less than 1,000 we will call it as what, micro. 10,000 or more we call it as macro. In between, mostly you don't find any substances as such. Okay, it is only based on this numbers it is classified. Next one, going on further, lipids have molecular weight less than 1,000 daltons. Yet are classified under macromolecules because they are found in the insoluble fraction. Okay, so they are classified under macromolecules because why? They are found in the insoluble fraction. The next one, most macromolecules are polymeric substances. Which means they are made up of monomers. Okay, many monomers will join together to form polymer, with the exception of lipids. So most of these macromolecules are all like polymeric substances. What is the meaning of polymeric substances? Something which is made up of many monomer units. Okay, so this is what is the thing. Our glycerols and fatty acid will come under lipid. Glycerols and fatty acids will make lipids. We will study that. Glycerol and fatty acids will be joining together to form what we call it as lipids. What about steroids? Steroids and all will be like kind of again, they will be coming under a different category. We'll study, just give me some time. Hey, what is the thing, man? Reason for making them insoluble means what is the meaning of it? There are certain substances which are soluble in water. There are some substances which are not soluble in water. Okay. Why it is not soluble means like it is because of the chemical property, the way in which the bonds are associated and all those things. So there are certain things which are made up of certain types of bonds. Certain compounds are made up of certain type of bonds. Vidyashree, we haven't like gone into those things. You have to wait for some time. Okay, so there are certain, the nature of substance is such that certain substances are soluble in certain things and certain substances are not soluble in certain things. What I'm trying to tell is like I'm trying to tell that if you're taking sulfur, sulfur will not be like dissolvable in water, but sulfur will be like kind of dissolving in carbon disulfide. Okay, that is the property of sulfur. That's all. If you're going to take any solvent, normal solvent, organic solvent, and then you are going to dissolve the cell parts, you will get two parts. The substances which are solubilizing will all come under one category. The substances which are not solubilizing will be coming under a different category. Why it is getting soluble now? The nature of the compound is only making it soluble or insoluble. Okay. Okay. Sir, many monomers form a polymer. Why is that monomer is soluble while polymers are not? You tell me. You tell the reason. So why do you think that monomers should be like soluble and then polymers should be like insoluble? What is your common sense trying to tell? You put sugar inside water and you try to dissolve it, and then you put a sugar cube and then try to dissolve it. Okay, both are sugar only. Okay, in one thing you take powdered sugar and then you try to put it. In other case, you take a bigger cube and then like you try to put it inside water. Which one will take more time to dissolve? Sugar cube naturally will not like dissolve quickly. Powdered sugar will be like kind of like easily moving. What is the reason for it? Whenever something is present in a bigger size, it will be like taking time to dissolve. I mean, like as in like what I'm trying to tell is like the polymeric substances in some way or the other, it becomes resistant to the effect of, so I mean becoming a soluble substance. So that way. Yeah, it is tightly packed, and then like probably while they're bonding, no, actually you need to understand polarity and then like the concept of water dissolving substances. I don't know whether you have studied in chemistry. You take sodium chloride. Okay, you take sodium chloride. You are putting it in water, and then like water is like kind of dissolving. Why is it dissolving? Because NaCl, if you are seeing sodium chloride, will have a lattice structure. Lattice structure means like what you have sodium is bonded with chlorine, as in bonded means not exactly a bond is there. So it will be like kind of attracted towards chlorine. You see here, this will be attracted with chlorine. If you see here, it will be attracted with chlorine. If you see here, it will be attracted with chlorine. If you see here, this will be attracted with sodium. If you see here, this will be attracted with sodium. This will be attracted with sodium. This will be attracted with sodium. Like this, it will be, this kind of structure is called as a lattice structure. Okay. So like this, like you will see like lots of connections will be there. So there will be a sodium here. There will be a sodium here. So like this, like there will be mutual attraction towards everything. There is no physical bond which is there. It is just attraction which is holding those molecules together. Okay. And water is called as a polar solvent. What is the meaning of polar solvent? It is ionic compound. Yes, sodium chloride is an ionic compound. Water is called as a polar substance. What do you mean by polar substance? Whenever you have water, the bonding in water is such that you have hydrogen is like there, it is there, oxygen is there, and then here there is also one more hydrogen is there. So if you are looking at the electronegativity, this side is like kind of like slightly having more negative charge. Though it is a covalent compound, oxygen is relatively more negative than hydrogen. So this side will have a positive charge. There is a difference in charge, which is a polarity is there. Okay. So though it is a covalent compound, where the charge should not be seen, this oxygen is like slightly more negative and hydrogen is more positive. So say for example, if this water molecule is going to be there near this particular thing, what do you think? This negative charge will try to pull away this positive charge, and it will try to dissociate this thing towards other end. And if there is one more water molecule which is there, so this molecule, let us say this positive charge of this thing will try to pull out this chlorine away from each other. So what is happening is it is breaking the lattice structure. So it is split into Na plus ions and Cl minus ions without bonding. Okay. So since this water molecule is polar, what is happening is it is trying to pull away these things. Okay. That is how you get it gets dissolved. Naturally, what happens in a polymer is you don't have such kind of options, because in a polymer you have like covalent bonds are made. You will study now how a polymer is made. Most often covalent bonds are made, and what is happening is you will not be able to dissociate them further. So which means you need to spend energy to cut it open all. So that is why what happens is like your polymers are generally insoluble in water. I mean, not insoluble in water, it's like kind of like insoluble. You need to have specialized enzymes to break it open. Hydrolytic enzymes. It is a very slow process. It is not that proteins will not dissolve. Proteins will dissolve in water, but the time that it takes will be like much better in case if it is there, if it is having a enzyme. Are you guys able to understand? Okay, so this is about macromolecules. Okay, moving on further, we need to talk about primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. Okay, what is the meaning of metabolite? First, you need to understand. Okay, any unit that is part of metabolism is called as metabolite. You guys know what is metabolism, right? Metabolism is the total chemical reaction happening in your body. Okay, it is the total chemical reaction that is happening in an organism. So any chemical in your body can be called as what? Metabolite, because it will be part of the metabolism. You know what is metabolism exactly. It has two parts, catabolism and anabolism. Okay, it will either make up your body, build up your body, or it will try to break down the complex substances. This is what we call it as metabolism. So making building up of body is called as anabolism. Breaking down of substances is called as catabolism. So catabolism and anabolism together we call it as metabolism. So any chemical unit that is part of this metabolism is normally considered to be a metabolite. Okay. So there are two types of metabolites. So metabolites can be considered as primary metabolite or it can be considered as a secondary metabolite. The word primary here indicates, I mean like 1 pota degree pota, when I'm using this kind of symbol, it means it is primary. Okay, when I'm using 2 and degree, it means it's secondary. So you have two types of metabolites. One what we call it as primary metabolite and you have like one which is called as secondary metabolite. This primary metabolite, what is it, and secondary metabolite, what it is, we'll try to see. So quickly take it down. Okay. So what is a primary metabolite? These are chemical substances these are chemical compounds that are involved directly in metabolism. They are involved in the physiological functioning of the cell. Okay, so we have like example will be your proteins, amino acids, lipids, nucleic acids, okay, carbohydrates, sugars. All these things are called as what? These are all called as primary metabolites. What are primary metabolites? Primary metabolites are substances that are directly involved in metabolism, directly either involved in the building up of the process or breaking down process. So say for example, if you're going to eat food, the major components of those foods will be broken down into primary metabolites. Okay. And using those components, your body will be built up, which means they are involved directly in the physiological functioning of the cell. Okay. If you're eating today, if I eat chapati today, chapati will be having sugars, and sugars will be like carbohydrate will break down into sugars, and sugars are used to build up glycogen. Then in that case what happens, the starch which is being broken down, the sugars which are there, okay, which are involved, and then there are like certain things like which are formed from it, the glycogen. All these three things will come under primary metabolite. If I'm eating egg will be broken into amino acids. Amino acids are used to build proteins in my body. So egg is having a different form of protein. Okay, it is broken down into amino acids, and whatever is broken down into amino acids is built into protein again. So this protein, amino acid and protein will be considered as a primary metabolite. Same way, if I'm eating like let us say oily items, butter or butter item I'm eating, butter has fat. Okay, so it is like directly consumed. Fiber is generally not digested. Okay, fiber is like very essential for it will be going with the undigested part of the food. The more fiber you add, fiber will not get into your body at all. Fiber is like essentially important for the formation of feces. So what happens is like, so all these things which are directly involved in the metabolical process, we call them as primary metabolite. Okay, so your protein, amino acids, lipids, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, sugars, fatty acids, glycerol, nucleotides are all example for primary metabolite. Okay. So now you have a secondary class which is called as secondary metabolites. These are metabolites that are derived from, these are metabolites that are derived from primary metabolites. They are essential for the functioning of cell, but not understood clearly. Okay. The roles of secondary metabolites is still not clear. Okay. They have commercial usage. Okay, so let me just tell you what it is. Some products are derived from the primary metabolites. You say, for example, chlorophyll is a molecule which is there in plant. Chlorophyll is not coming directly from what? It is not coming from metabolism. Okay. Plant is not getting that chlorophyll directly from metabolism. But how is chlorophyll as a molecule, as a pigment molecule is present? It is like something which is like created from the primary metabolites only, but involving some other reactions. You talk about essential oils. You take eucalyptus. Eucalyptus has oil in it. So that eucalyptus oil is there. That eucalyptus oil is also a biological molecule which is present inside the plant. But is it involved directly in the metabolism? No, it is not involved directly in the metabolism. Okay. So similarly, what you have to understand is like you need to understand that there are certain compounds which are not involved in metabolism directly. You talk about gum. Okay. You talk about rubber. Gum is also coming from plant only. Rubber is also coming from plant only. You take about poisons. Okay. You have drugs which are used. Okay. You have morphine. Morphine is a substance which is isolated from plant only. Okay, morphine is a substance that they will give it to you before what? Before your operation and all. It is an anesthetic. It is used in anesthesia. Or you talk about drugs which are used for recreational purposes. Okay, like the drugs like ganja, in ganja and all, like ganja, when people are saying those things. Those are also isolated from plants only. Okay, you have poisons, you have toxic substances, you have alkaloids, you have essential oils. Okay, all these things are all isolated from plants, okay, or animals, but they are not involved in the metabolism directly. Okay, so they are all like substances which are produced from metabolism. Yeah, same thing. Cocaine and all is also same thing. So any drug that you are taking, So they are all not directly from metabolism. They are all obtained from, all these things are organic chemicals only, or isolated. You can synthesize them. So those things are what we call it as the secondary metabolites. If you are asking me if they are involved in the physical process of that plant, they might not be involved in normal functioning of the cell, but still they are present inside the plant, or it is present in the animal. And what we are seeing is, we are seeing these classes of substances also. These classes of substances are what we call it as secondary metabolites. So if you call chlorophyll, if you take chlorophyll, we are trying to talk about this chlorophyll is there, or like let us talk about like say phycoerythrin. Phycoerythrin is like kind of a pigment. Phycocyanin is there. So all these pigments are not involved in the metabolism directly, but still they are present and they have some use to the plant in some way or the other. Those substances are called as metabolites. It's not just plant, any organism. Are we able to understand? So you have example, rubber, spices, scents, alkaloids, toxins, pigments, lecithins, lectins, drugs, terpenoids, etc. All these things will be example for secondary metabolites. Yeah, penicillin kind of antibiotic will be a secondary metabolite. Exactly. So penicillin is obtained from that organism which is Penicillium notatum. That antibiotic is a secondary metabolite. It will not be directly involved in metabolism, but they are like secondary metabolite. Are these, and these are the things are responsible for giving bitter taste and bitter gourd and all. Yeah, taste and all will come because of these things. These kind of chemicals, taste, fragrance and all is responsible. I mean, like it is all because of secondary metabolites. Terpenoid is like one kind of chemical, that's all. Secondary thing. Most of these groups are classified based on the chemical group that are present there. So terpenoids and all will be having what? They will have a particular chemical structure. Like how you have alcohol. Okay. How you have carboxylic acid group. So those kind of terpene structures will be there. There is a structure which is called as terpene. If it is present, it will be considered as a terpenoid. Same thing with alkaloid also. It will have an alkyl structure somehow. What you cannot understand the role of secondary, the role of secondary metabolite is still not clear for even scientists. What I am trying to tell is they are present in the body of the plant or organism. We still don't know why they are present. They are not involved in the, yeah, hormones can be included in it. Not just plant hormone, even human hormones can be included in it. Steroids, whatever steroids that we are talking about, steroids and all can also be considered as that way. Okay, they are all chemical groups. Your plant has two type of chemicals. Okay, not just plant. Your biological substances, organisms consist of two types of substances. One group of substances are directly involved in metabolism. Those are called as primary metabolites. Directly involved in metabolism means they are involved directly in the nutrition of the plants and building up of the plants. You have physiological process. There are certain substances which are directly involved in digestion, respiration, excretion, okay, circulation. All these things are called as physiological processes. So there are chemicals which are involved directly in your these reactions. Those are called as the primary metabolites. But there are a group of compounds which are not involved directly in these primary physiological functions or activities. Those substances are classified as secondary metabolites. They are still present in the organism. Okay, we still don't know what they are there for. They are used for commercial purposes. Say, for example, rubber inside a rubber tree is not useful for the plant. We don't know how it is useful for the plant, but still rubber is produced by the plant and we are trying to make use of rubber. That is the commercial advantage that we are doing. Okay, so say for example, you talk about eucalyptus oil. Eucalyptus oil is not going to give any benefit to the plant. We don't know why it is there in the plant, but eucalyptus oil is useful for us, so we are making use of it. That's all. So eucalyptus oil is a secondary metabolite. Okay, so thank you. With this thing, we'll wrap up today's class. First slide, second slide, third slide, fourth slide, fifth slide, sixth slide, seventh slide, eighth slide, ninth slide. Children, your videos are all like shown immediately day by day. It is like put. So if you have any slides which you missed, you can see it in the videos. Thank you. I'm getting late.